The following presentation is a screencast overview for the film Boys in the Hood. The information that follows will provide a closer look at the themes and reception of the film through both analysis of the cinematography itself and the use of scholarly articles.
Boyz n the Hood is an American drama both written and directed by John Singleton. The movie was released cinematically in the United States in 1991 and filmed in the then District of South Central Los Angeles, California in 1990. So what is Boyz n the Hood really about?
After 10-year-old Trey Styles gets into a fight at school, he is forced to move into the Crenshaw neighborhood with his father and reunites with some old friends, Doughboy and Ricky. Together, they grow up in the hood, and while Doughboy is stuck in a cyclical cycle of gang-related violence, Ricky and Trey are attempting to escape the hood through college acceptance. Trey gets an academic scholarship, while Ricky gets an offer from USC to play football. As the movie reaches the climax, Ricky gets in a fight with Doughboy and storms off with Trey. Ricky is soon shot and killed by a rival gang. Trey wants to go with Doughboy to avenge his best friend, but realizes he is not a man of violence and can never live a life outside the barriers of the hood if he helps Doughboy. Fast forward, Trey went on to college while Doughboy was killed for Ricky's revenge.
Throughout the progression of the movie, four major themes arise that hold significance. These themes are as follows: cyclical struggle, violence, masculinity, and residential segregation.
Once the audience is introduced to the hood and the negative implications it holds, it becomes clear that the hood is inescapable. The characters recognize this, and while many of them play the tough guy role, they still possess fear of knowing nothing will change, being stuck in the same world of violence and gang association. It seems there is nothing anyone can do, both being inside the hood and outside. No one can make a change, things just are the way they are. If you are from the hood, you remain there for the rest of your days, and there really is no outlet to leave.
A second reoccurring theme we see throughout the movie is violence. Most of the men in the hood have some sort of gang affiliation which you almost need to survive. This theme of violence is hinted at very purposely in the scene when Trey and the other kids in his class walk past a crime scene with blood splattered on the walls. Later in the film, the boys seek out a dead body in the back alley. They do not react strongly to either scenes, which just highlights how desensitized the kids in the hood become to violence and death. It's just part of their daily lives. The violence all culminates when Ricky is murdered and Doughboy gets revenge by killing the rival gang members, who then kill Doughboy. It shows how the cyclical struggle is founded on violence, and the violence just continues as each side gets revenge again and again.
The theme of masculinity in Boys in the Hood is represented in two ways. On one hand, we have Doughboy, who believes that you have to be hard to live in the hood. Violence is a way of life in their community, and you have to adapt to it. This is likely why Doughboy joined a gang and took part in the revenge murder of Ricky's killer. His expression of masculinity can be seen as a survival trait that earns him respect and some semblance of security in his community. On the other hand, Trey's representation of masculinity is extremely influenced by his father, Furious. Furious imprints on Trey at a young age, acting not just as a father, but a mentor. Because of Furious, it is fair to say that Trey has evolved into a mature man who eventually decides for himself that he doesn't want to live a life of guns and drugs. When Trey decides against helping Doughboy murder Ricky's killer, it displayed what it meant to be a real man. He expresses his masculinity by thinking beyond his life in the hood, towards an actual future, while Doughboy expresses his masculinity through adaptation and a tough man lifestyle.
During one scene, Trey's father, Furious, gives a speech about gentrification. He says that white people try to buy all the property to make a profit. They lower the property values before they buy it by selling drugs, liquor, and guns so that black people will kill themselves. No one in the outside world cares about these occurrences unless it happens in a white neighborhood. This scene almost feels like Singleton himself is talking to the audience. He's trying to convince black people that they need to unite and defend one another because those living outside the hood are essentially perpetuating the violent system established inside the hood. The internal dangers of the hood do not compare to the larger effects of the world, refusing to acknowledge them. The us against the world mentality is a big part of this film.
The film was nominated for both Best Director and Best Original Screenplay during the 64th Academy Awards. This marks Singleton as the youngest person ever nominated for Best Director and was the first African-American film to be nominated for the award.
Boyz n the Hood made $57.7 million in the box office, far exceeding the movie's production budget of $6.5 million. The movie was received well by the larger audience and holds a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes.
We found two scholarly articles that show the impact of Singleton on the black filmmaking industry, as well as his critique on the current social structure, where whites' non-attendance in the hood still allows them control of members within it, despite having any real physical presence. In the Cunningham article, Singleton inspired many other black people to follow their dreams of being a director or writer. He also showed studios that having black people direct and write movies about black culture would produce better movies and more money at the box office. This meant more jobs for black creators.
In a second article by Andres Bartolome, he argues the connection between the superiority of white culture to the social structures that elites in power hold. The societal structure of blacks and whites is a paramount aspect of nowadays elite superiority. White culture has command over the mobility and can influence the livelihood of the rest of the population. He says, deliberately omitted during most of the film, the visual representations of whites are foregrounded in a few moments. This acts as an impassive witness of black self-destruction. It reiterates the theme that the hood is an isolated bubble that's engulfed by violence and crime, and the white elite allow and facilitate that corruption. Bartolome explains that once these inner city communities are cut off from sources of moral authority and legitimate work, crime turns to be a viable and accessible way of living. And it even means to be constantly surrounded by delinquency and death. This not only claims that there is no moral authority in the hood, but insinuates that to survive in the hood you need to fall subject to violence.
Both links are listed in the PowerPoint for further review. We encourage you to explore the author's arguments in full detail.